Good morning and welcome to the NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship Practice Day press conference featuring Final Four team Stanford. We are now joined by head coach Tara Vanderveer, and we will open this press conference up for questions, and the first one will come from Elliot. Elliot, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Good morning, Tara. How are you?
Good morning, Elliot. You're up early.
I got up real early, and I'm doing it tomorrow for another thing. Elliot Allman, San Jose Mercury News. I have to state my affiliation. Tara, I have two questions, so I want to ask both of them now if I don't get another chance. The first one is, can you imagine in 1992, could you imagine that it would be 3 decades and that you have the kind of team that could win another championship? I realize that's 2 more games here, but just could you imagine that? I mean, I don't think anybody in the history of major sports, coach, has potentially done something like that you could do right now. And the second question is, emotionally, I know how much you love this team. You've talked to me about that and us about that before. Why do you want it so bad for this particular team?
All right, so question number one. Elliot, there's a lot of things that really happen out of my realm of imagination, including this whole season. But you take it one day at a time and 1 year at a time. And I'm really excited about this team, and obviously, we want to do as well as we can. So the second question, every team, you have a different relationship with every team that you have. So, in the past 30 years, I've had probably 30 different relationships with 30 different teams. This particular team is what I'm going to call a low maintenance team. They're really, we have great leadership. We have a great upper class women that kind of get it. They understand, wow, we're so fortunate to be playing. Life has thrown us curveballs, and we just keep swinging and keep being flexible and doing whatever it takes. Being out of our county, being out of our gym, being out of our locker room, not having fans. We just really come to appreciate the kind of the little things, but maybe the real things in life. So for this team that has showed some great resilience, great determination, incredible togetherness, I'm their biggest fan. And and being in a locker room with them, I just know that I only have 2 more games of potential coaching them, and I want it to be 2 great games.
Next question is from Howard. Howard, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Tara, Howard Megdal at the Next. Good morning.
Good morning,
welcome
Howard.
Back.
Thank you.
I wanted to know just more philosophically, down the stretch in that Elite 8 game, you obviously have a rotation that's significant. I think you have 9 players at north of 15 minutes per game, but you managed to shrink it considerably. I wonder just in general whether that's the way you try to approach things when we get to this point in the season, and if you think that is sort of the way you think about things heading into these 1 and potentially 2 more games.
I don't see us really changing anything we've done. In terms of, our minutes, they're not necessarily that 9, 10, 11 people play in all of the games, but sometimes it's situational. Depending upon what the other team is doing, it might favor someone's strength, or, maybe someone's in foul trouble, or in some cases they weren't at games. So it has given other people opportunities. But I have total confidence in everyone on our team. And, if the situation presents itself, I know they'll step up and do what our team needs them to do. And that's been the case all year. This team has been a team that really, I use the analogy of an orchestra, that there's going to be different solos every night. And, we have gotten different solos, but the best thing is that when someone is doing a solo, the other members of the orchestra are still playing, they're not like putting their instruments down and, kind of watching. So we've got a lot of different people that contribute, and I see that going forward too.
Next question is from Anne. Anne, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Good morning, Tara. Ann Killian with the San Francisco Chronicle. You're making me get up awfully early.
Sorry, Ann. Good morning.
Hey, I have two questions. The first is about the fact that you have a lot of fans, it seems, in the stands now. You could hear them on the television broadcast as the comeback started in the second half. I mean, obviously we see Russell Wilson every time someone makes a shot, but I'm just wondering what the impact of finally having, even if it's not a full house, that kind of support and especially for your team that they can at least look up in the stands and see their parents or their siblings or their loved ones.
Right.
And then my second question, in case I don't get to come back to, is, I'm sure you saw Mark Emmert's answers yesterday's press conference, and I'm just wondering, you've been at this game a long time. Does what's happening in the 2021 NCAA women's tournament feel like it could be a watershed moment in terms of issues of equity and putting a spotlight and players and coaches asking for more? Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me start with number two. I haven't seen the statement. We were in practice when they were doing a video. I do hope that this year is a watershed year for more than just the NCAA women's basketball. But to me, it's symptomatic of so many things that are going on in our world, and maybe COVID brings them to a head. We're really focused on all of the things that are going on, all the other, quote, viruses. So yes, I hope that this is a watershed moment, and I hope that it's not just this, but whether it has to do with the trial that's going on, Black Lives Matter, voting rights, voting access, those things. I hope that we're not just sweeping this stuff under the rug. But the first question about fans, I think that our players are ecstatic that family and friends are able to come to the games. For me, I don't hear it at all. So. And I know they're, maybe with the television they're showing our fans, which is great, but I know that I do not hear them at all. And like my assistants will say afterwards, well, did you hear this? I'm like, no. But I guess I'm just in my own world, just kind of watching the game. But I'm really glad that our family and friends are able to be here.
Next question is from Doug. Doug, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Good morning, Coach. Doug Fomberg, the Associated Press. I also have two questions for you. They're doing things in twos today.
Okay.
My first one is, you've been to many Final Fours, and obviously this year has been so crazy with all the COVID stuff and you guys being on the road. Does it feel like a Final Four to you? Usually there's the pomp and circumstance, the dinners and stuff. Mm-hmm. Been here for 2.5 weeks already. So does it feel like a normal Final Four in any way at all?
Okay, do you want me to answer that one, or do you want to?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so, we're staying in the same hotel. We haven't had to travel. They did change the food a little bit. We're doing more of a buffet now, which is great. There is a little feel to it, and like coming over to the gym today, we had a police escort, and the court is new and different, and there's logos and different things in the locker room. So I do think that there is more a sense of it, but it's a COVID Final Four. It's muted. There's not the people around. There's not your band on the send off. There's not all the stuff that it is very different, but. Regardless of that, we are thrilled to be here, and we are, really, really excited to be playing in the Final Four, and we're really thankful that there is one.
Thank you. And the second question is, you coached Dawn years ago in the Olympics, I believe, in '96.
I did.
And just, did you have any inkling back then? I mean, she was a guard, obviously, so point guards tend to think like coaches in a sense, but did you think back then that maybe she might be something special in the coaching ranks down the road if she wanted to?
Yes, she was something special as a player, and she is incredibly special as a coach. I loved coaching Dawn. She is as a player, she really saw the game so well. I mean, she really has great instincts, great understanding of the game. She was a tremendous leader of her team, someone that is super competitive. So whatever Dawn decided to go into, she was going to be just, at the top of whatever career she decided. If she wanted to be in law, if she wanted to be in politics, whatever it was, she has it. She's a very special person, and I'm really excited. I cheer for her every game, except for the game tomorrow.
Next question is from Steve. Steve, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation. Steve, I'll come back to you next. Next question is from Michelle Vopel.
Yeah, Tara, good morning. It's Michelle Vopel from ESPN.com. If I could follow up a little bit on what my colleagues have asked with two. First, with Dawn and Adia, actually, I mean, these are players you strategized against. I mean, back in '92, Dawn was a senior at Virginia. Obviously, you went against Adia. What does it mean to you to in some ways, to see that growth, those former players being at this level? And I know Dawn's won a national championship, but what does it mean for the growth of the game? And then I have one more after that.
Well, Michelle, great question. Both Adia and Dawn are, what our game stands for. Young coaches that, as players, were great players. You've got Adia at her alma mater, taking that team from a team that was in the bottom of the Pac-12 to going to the Final Four. What a tremendous job she has done. And going from being a player there, she's turned the whole women's basketball experience at Arizona totally upside down. It's just a great place to play, a great environment, tremendous fans, and Dawn has done the same thing. They've both done just incredible jobs, and their experiences as players, I think, have obviously helped them. They've paid their dues, and they're tremendous role models for all the women in the game, but maybe especially the women of color in our game. To see two women in the Final Four, Black women, it's fantastic.
And, I know when you're in the midst of just trying to plan for games and stuff, this isn't something you think about a whole lot. But when you talk about the viruses of the world, we have former Stanford women's basketball players on every front fighting those. And literally, you have former doctors, you have former lawyers, you have people in this game from NECA to Jane to, just goes on and on. How much of that part of your legacy do you think about at times? Because that's really at the forefront right now in some ways of what we're dealing with as a society.
Well, I am incredibly proud of the young women I work with, whether it's Sonia Henning, who is, an executive at Nike, whether it's Kate Starbird, who is a professor studying bots at the University of Washington, whether it's Jane Appel or Neko Gumake or, Amy Westerfeld Brooks, who's probably the highest woman in the NBA. These, being at Stanford and being part of our basketball program, and then going on to doing these incredible things, is just like, I'm just like a proud, mama bear just watching them there. It's awesome. So, and other, obviously there are other women basketball players and other student athletes that are going on to doing great things. And that's just a credit to the universities they're at and maybe the programs that they play in and the opportunities that they have to play in things like the NCAA tournament and the Final Four. These are great learning experiences. Our team this past year has dealt with a tremendous amount of adversity. I think the adversity that we've dealt with helped us in our game, being down and just digging in, and the adversity in the game also will turn around and help our young women in their life going forward. They can look back and say, hey, things aren't going our way, let's do something about it. And I think they're going to be great leaders, as some of our former players are, in all kinds of fields that are very, very important and valuable in our world.
Next question is from Lindsay. Lindsay, please limit yourself to one question and unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Don't worry, I have been limiting myself to one question the entire time.
Thank you.
Hi, Tara. Lindsay Schnell, USA Today. I wanted to ask you about Haley Jones. It occurs to me, I think she might be the first true positionless player we've had in women's basketball. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, obviously. I think
I will.
Probably she is most similar to Cheryl Miller. But I wondered, what was it about Haley's game when you saw her that made you decide we're not going to force her to fit into one box within our offense?
Great question, Lindsay. I would say on our team we have had Nicole Powell was really similar to that, in that she, was 6'2". She really was a positionless basketball player too. But I would say, in that mold, the thing about Haley is that she has great vision. She likes to handle the ball. So she's like a Magic Johnson. Could play 1 through 5. And I think part of her skill set is not just her physical skill set, but her ability to, recognize, what position she's in, know different plays at different positions. But her passing ability, her ball handling ability, she can score inside and out. I just think that this is the future of our game, and she's kind of the leader of that future.
Next question is from Steve. Steve, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Yeah, Steve Croner from the San Francisco Chronicle. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning,
I'm
Steve.
going to sneak in 1.5 questions. The half question is any update on Cameron Brink?
We have practice right after this, Steve. I think she's doing well. So hopefully she'll be ready to play. But I don't know 100% to the answer right now. She tweaked her leg a little bit. So hopefully, hopefully it's minor. We'll see.
And then full question, what X's and O's things do you think you have to do tomorrow night to beat South Carolina?
Well, I think the most obvious thing is that we have to rebound. They're a team that out-rebounds their opponents by 15. And if our team, is not going to be on the glass, we'll be coming home Saturday morning. We must rebound. I think another thing with them is that you've got to limit turnovers, because they really get out and run in transition. And these aren't things that are any big secrets. You watch them play, and they're a great up-tempo team. So you've got to limit turnovers so they're not, running on you. And you've got to really get back in transition and take away easy baskets. Otherwise, I think you've just, defensively, you can look at, different players that they have. They have an inside game, an outside game. And you've got to limit their top players to not letting them maybe do what they like to do. And for us, more than anything, I think we've got to come out and play the second half. We can't wait to a second half. We can't dig ourselves a hole. We've got to come out and play the whole game, just like we did the second half against Louisville.
Next question is from Chantel. Chantel, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Hey, Tara, this is Chantel Jennings with The Athletic. I'm sure there's maybe a large part of you that's looking forward to a time in your life when you don't spend 100 nights on the road living out of a suitcase. But I'm curious if, as you look at this team, what they're doing on the floor, if you've seen tangible benefits from that time that you guys have spent together. That I'm sure every team spends a lot of time together in a typical season, but this year it's sort of even more heightened.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. You know, one of the things that we've been very fortunate to have at Stanford is we've had several sets of sisters. And the first one was maybe Nek and Shanae Ogumake, and Bonnie and Carly Samuelson. And now we have Lexi and Lacey Hull. And I really think that having sisters on your team is so beneficial because this team, to me, has been a team of sisterhood. And the sisterhood, you know, if you aren't really a family, if you aren't really, you know, if you don't really care about each other, 100 days on the road could really get old. But, you know, we're going into our third week and, you know, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's great to be around these young women. And I think they really enjoy being around each other. And they want to win for each other. And they want to play hard for each other. And when you have that sisterhood, it is really special. So it's a combination, I think, of, you know, being on the road with each other, but having that foundation of, you know, caring about each other. And this team built this, not the coaches, but the players did this in the off season. They did what they called small group Zooms all during the pandemic in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and got to know each other, little things about each other. And when they're with each other, they're not cliquey. They enjoy playing ping pong. We have we have that tournament. They play games with each other. They're sitting around talking to each other. They like hanging out with each other, and it's genuine. And so basketball, then, when you're out there, is more than just passing to somebody. You're playing hard for each other.
We have time for one more question, and that will come from Cheryl. Cheryl, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Cheryl Coward, Hoop Feed. There are a lot of historical things about this tournament, of course, with Dawn and Adia in the Final Four as two Black coaches, but also it's the 125th anniversary of the first women's college basketball game, which was between Stanford and Cal in 1896. Were you aware of that? Stanford won that game, and there was also a player named Agnes on that team. Is that something that you've thought about, or maybe that you can use as motivation for your team?
I think it was brought to my attention that, you know, not at the Final Four, but, you know, that it was a historical day, a historical game with Stanford and Cal. And it's, I've seen pictures, Cheryl, of the uniforms and the ball, so we've come a long way. But we also know that we have a long way to go, and maybe this Final Four will be kind of a look back at the historical, but also a look forward of just the direction our game is going with, you know, again, great young coaches, and we've got some old coaches here too, but you know, a really, really exciting Final Four. So thank you all very much. Pleasure to be here this morning. I'll turn it over to Lexi.
Thank you, Coach, for your time. And while we're waiting on Lexi, please go ahead and raise your hand if you anticipate wanting to ask a question. We are now joined by Lexi Hull, and first question will come from Ann. Ann, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Hi, Lexi. Ann Killian with the San Francisco Chronicle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tara was just talking about the benefit of having sisters on a team, and she described your guys' group as a sisterhood, and that it's not real cliquey and it feels like family. And some of that is probably the circumstances that you guys have been through. But I'm wondering if you, as a sister, can talk about how you think that vibe and that feeling has been created and has grown during this crazy season, and also just what it means to have your family. I think both your parents are there now. Just to have that feeling finally of having people cheering in the stands, and you could, like, during the broadcast, we could hear them, and just that whole feeling of finally having that family support to this other family that you have.
Yeah, I mean, this season has definitely brought our team closer together. Living together in a hotel for a few months, living together in a dorm. I mean, we see each other pretty much every hour of every day. So I think we're very fortunate because we really like each other, and it's not a bad thing to have to live with each other. And especially this past few weeks, we're kind of joking that we're all living in a dorm with our coaching staff, which is kind of funny, but we like it. I mean, there's nothing bad about it. It's brought us a lot closer. We're learning a lot about each other, and we're just growing together in every way. And then when it comes to playing with my sister, I think that's it. It's playing with one sister, but it's also playing with 12. So, I mean, I wouldn't change a single part about this season because I think that it's really helped us and it's helped us grow stronger as a unit. And then seeing my family in the stands has been amazing. My grandma's here, some of my friends, my parents. It's something that we've missed for a year, and to be able to play in front of them and play with them, hear them cheering, it really just brings an extra aspect to the game. And I know coming out into that second half against Louisville, we had a lot of support from our crowd, and I think that really helped us. And when we were going on that run, we could hear them. They brought a lot, and it's something that we definitely don't take for granted, especially now, and we're just really lucky to have them here.
Next question is from Elliot. Elliot, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation. Okay, let's move on to Steve. Steve.
Yeah, Steve Croner from the San Francisco Chronicle. Lexi, I asked this to Coach. Obviously, she's the tactician, but I'm sure you know some ins and outs of the game. What are one or two things you think your team has to do to beat South Carolina?
Like she said, I think we need to come out for 40 minutes. South Carolina is a very, very skilled and talented team, and I think if we come out in that first half playing like we did against Louisville, that we'll dig ourselves too big of a hole, and that can't happen again. So we need to come out ready, come out aggressive, and not hold back. And like she said also, I think they're a very, very impressive rebounding team, and I think that's something we're really going to have to focus and lock down on and put more effort in than they are.
Okay, let's go back to Elliot. Elliot, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Elliot Almond, San Jose Mercury News. Thanks for being here, Lexi, for doing this. You talked about how close the team is. Do the players realize that if you guys were to win, it would be 3 decades since she last won? I mean, almost 29 years, so practically 30 years. So way more than your lifetime. Do you guys, I know she keeps talking about how much she wants it for you guys, but I'm wondering if the players want it really bad for her.
Yeah, I think we equally want it as bad for her. I mean, the entire coaching staff has sacrificed a lot for us to be able to play. They've been on the road. They've been away from their families. And so for sure, we want to win, and we want to win for each other. We want to win for her because of how much that we've had to sacrifice this season. And we just really want it for everybody.
All right, next question is from Pepper. Pepper, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Hi, Lexi. Pepper Presley with the Next Hoops. In your game against Louisville, your team came back from your largest deficit of the tournament. What does that say about your team's resilience, and how do you think that will affect your team's confidence going forward?
I definitely think that we learned a lot about ourselves. I remember going into the locker room at halftime, and Tara said, the next time we come in here, we don't want to feel the way we feel right now. And I think that really motivated us and got us focused for that second half, is that we want to come back into that locker room feeling like we did going back into that locker room after the game. And we learned that we have it in us, and we can't expect to come in to a second half playing like we did in that first half. So I think ultimately it taught us that we can't take any plays off and we need to come in ready for 40 minutes every game because that can't happen again if we expect to win a national championship.
We have time for one more question, and that will come from Teresa. Teresa, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Apologies, that was I didn't mean to raise my hand. Sorry about that.
No problem. Anybody else? Oh, we have another question from Lindsay. Lindsay, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation.
Hi, Lexi. Lindsay Schnell with USA Today. Who's in the finals of the ping pong tournament and who's your money on? Not that you're allowed to bet. If you were allowed to bet, who would your money be on?
I was waiting for this question. I knew this one would come. So the finals, Ashton and I played the night before the Louisville game, and Celia and Hannah played. I beat Ashton, very close, very competitive game, and Hannah beat Seal. So it'll be Hannah and I in the finals. Hannah has talked about my weaknesses, and I think she's spot on. So I expect her to exploit those to the fullest. I want to be very confident going into that game, but I really think she might have a better skill set. So I'm gonna have to come out grittier and just to really lock in.
Lexi, thank you for your time and good luck in both basketball and ping pong.
Thank you very much. She's really good.
To the media, a recording of this press conference will be available at ncaa.veritone.com. Thank you and have a good day.